Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so today we are going to start new topic from core Java, that is exception handling. Yeah, so this is one interesting and most commonly used uh, topic or concept throughout the project, or till you are in Java development or any other language. Exception handling is quite interesting topic and used thoroughly in your projects. So you guys should know what is exception handling and when to use and what kind of scenarios can come into a picture. Okay, so before jumping over this topic, we need to understand its what you call that, the hierarchy, the library part of it. So let's start with the project again, not project even, the library we saw. So this is our JDK version, Java 17, and if you expand this java.base pack jar file, so there we can see all the packages which are part of core Java library. And there's one package name is java.lang, L-A-N-G, java.lang. There it is. And if I expand this package, you can see lots of Java classes, and inside this Java class, you will see certain classes which ends with exception and error. Exception, exception, some more exception classes. So these classes are part of java.lang package. And what these Java developer guys did initially when the JDK was designed, this package gets auto import in every Java class. So that means if you are trying to import any class from this package, they will get auto imported. You don't have to like write import something something from this package and that's a class name. No, that works with IO package and other package like math, net, and neo package, security, time, whatever library you're using, utils package. So if we use those packages, so definitely you have to write this package explicitly that I'm importing certain file from this package. But when it comes to lang package, you don't have to do that. By default, all the classes from this package gets auto imported. So you won't find this somewhere in your class, which says import this Java class from certain library or package. As of now, we haven't used that, so you won't find anything in our classes. So there's no import keyword we have seen so far. Even till java.lang package, we won't see this keyword. In future, we will see. Okay, so exception is certain cases which arise when you are doing something wrong or somehow something goes wrong. So exception is, you know, um, unwanted conditions which stops the normal code flow. So what is normal code flow? Java works in top down bottom approach. It goes from top to bottom. Usually that's how it works. So exceptions are those conditions which can abrupt that flow. So if I go back, let's create one package and there we will practice this topic. So under src, going to create new package here, and I'll say um, com dot pack dot exception demo. Okay, that's my package name. Right click, new Java class, first example, or let's say normal code flow. Wow. Okay, it's going to be ultra simple class. Nothing special I'm going to do here. I'll write a main method, and here I'll put certain lines, sys out, and here I'll just simply say statement 1. Then I'll repeat this line multiple times. Like statement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that way. 3, 4, 4, 5. Okay, let's run this code, run as an application, and you guys can see it is printing simply, right? Nothing's happening. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is great. It is working fine. Nice, right? So this is our normal code flow. It goes from top to bottom. Top means line 6, bottom means line 10. I will refer line numbers from now onwards because we are digging into library now. So might be code number of lines get increased. Okay, so what if something goes wrong in between? Okay, so if I say int c equals, I'm going to do perform uh, some numeric operations. So I'm trying to divide 5 by 0. So if I run this code, I'm getting one line. It says exception in thread main Java lang arithmetic exception divide by 0. So this is the reason you're trying to divide something by 0, and what we got, arithmetic exception. So what just happened because of this exception? One exception arises, and because of that, our normal code flow was interrupted. I can see line 1 is there, 2 is there, or statement 3 is also there. But because of this exception, I cannot see line 4 and 5. And this is the issue here. That means if I wrote 5 method calls, only 3 method call got executed, but 4 and 5 got missed up. And it's all because of exception. So I need to handle this kind of scenario through some code so I can see my code execution is completely executed, irrespective of exception happening or not. So at least code execution should work out, or we should write some that way that if exception is there, so don't go beyond of that. Just uh, limit that flow. Okay, so this I just explained what is normal flow code and what happens when you get any error or exception. Okay, so how we can do that? So we have one mechanism in core Java which is known as exceptional handling. Okay, so when we say exception handling, which says you have to write some conditions. So in Java, we have keywords which can be used to handle exceptions. Try and catch. These are actually blocks which can be used to uh, avoid exceptions. Other than that, we have some other keywords as well, or blocks. This is a block, finally block, then throws, and then last keyword in this list is throw. So we have total 5 keywords or Java reserve keywords, and by using try catch we can handle exceptions. Apart from that, to support that flow, we have finally block, then throws and throw keyword. So these are keywords and these are blocks. So try block, but definitely we write them as a keyword, but we use the top 3 as a blocks. Okay, so we have a idea what we are up to, what we are going to discuss. So before proceeding further, we have to understand the exception hierarchy in core Java. So let's open the browser and then we will write exception hierarchy in Java. And let me open the images. Just checking which one should I pick. Okay, this looks good. Copy image. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to take this screenshot from here. So you guys can see we have some hierarchy over here. So it starts with object class. I don't know guys, you have gone through object class or not, but if you're not, try to do that. And if there's any issue or doubt, let me know. Okay, so at the top, at the root level, we have object class, which is the super or parent class of all Java classes. Then after we have a throwable class. This is actually a abstract class. In short, I'm writing AC, abstract class. Then we have two subclasses for throwable class, exception and error. So left side is exception, this side is error. And guys, this section, the right side, you cannot write Java code to handle errors. Like, see the message, it says virtual machine error. We tend to have JVM in our local system to run that code. So if think about that, JVM is down, you cannot write any code to fix that. So errors are irrecoverable. You cannot recover from the errors if you are facing that error while executing or running something. So we can't handle errors through Java code. Okay, so that's why we never said error handling. We always said exception handling. So that's how it works. Errors are irrecoverable. We cannot recover. If they are there, it will be there. So you have to might be restart your machine or reinstall the JVM to process it is correctly. Okay, but yeah, when it comes to left side, the exception is the parent class, and then it has multiple child classes, IO exception, input output exception, it means. SQL means for data exception, and runtime exceptions, which comes at runtime. Arithmetic exception, we just saw, right? When we executed that code, we saw this java.lang.arithmetic exception. So it's a part of runtime exception class. And then null pointer exception, number format exception. Okay, so these are the part of it. So we have to remember this hierarchy. Without it, you cannot understand exception handling topic. So this hierarchy will help us later, and in future we will came across with some more concept where we have a hierarchy to understand. And of course, you have to buy a hard it. We have to like remember it, cram it, mark it, whatever. But at least you know certain classes. Okay, and let's check the next thing. So I just gave you idea what is exception, how it will come up, and how to handle it through some keywords. So we'll start with the very first keyword, that is try keyword. Try keyword or block, so I'll call that try block. Try block. So how it looks like, how to use it. So you can write, we have multiple ways to use it. So first way is uh, how to use or write. So it goes like try, then curly brace open and code, and then we have to write code, which might throw exception. Okay, but issue with the try is you cannot write it alone. If you are writing or using try catch in your system, in your IDE, it will give you error. You will get a compile time error. So when you are using try block, make sure that you are also writing catch block. Then it goes like a method call, and here we write the exception name, reference, and then it has its own. Then we can say log the exception. So this is the first way to use try catch block. So or try block. Other way to write try is by writing try again. So then for same thing, if you have some code which might throw exception, wrap it inside try block. And after writing try block like this way, you can write finally block. So first way is using try catch, second way is try finally. Here we say this block always get executed irrespective of the exception. Fine, so it doesn't matter whether you will get exception or not, this finally block will always execute. So when we discuss about finally, so we will get in more detail about it, but for now this much is enough. So we saw first way by using try catch, second way is try finally, third is you can combine both approach. So it goes like try catch and then finally. this way. Let's cut. This is third way. So you can use all three blocks. Try, catch, and finally. So in between even I explained what's the purpose of these blocks. Okay, so now we have all ways to write it. Let's try this in our code. Save it. Try block we are talking about, and then how to use it. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so let's go back to Eclipse and going to write a new Java class, and we will pick the first approach, try with catch. So try block tester. Okay, so I'll copy it as it is, the very first example where we executed the main method. Okay, so let's run this code right now. Run as application, and again getting the same message, right? Exception 1 to 3, and this cause issue, then 4 and 5. Even if you notice here, the last line it clearly says exception came where com pack exception demo, that's our package name, then try block tester, that's our class name, main is our method, and this is the file at line 9. You can see line 9 is here. So if you open console of any server or any ID, it clearly mentions what goes wrong. It just takes time and patience to understand where the code is, and definitely some experience. So make it in your habit, whenever you get an exception, always read it like you just read some paragraphs or stories. Yes, and somewhere you will get the issue. Okay, so how to handle it? I just mentioned already in try block that code which might throw exception, and I can clearly see from this line this is causing issue, the line 9. So what I will do, I will cut this code, write try, and I will use ID feature and paste it. So I just did what I suggested. If you find out that this line is causing issue, wrap that within try block. And for catch block, I said log the exception. Log means you want to print something, that something was wrong. So I'll say sys out, and I'll say um, not error, exception happened. Okay, done. So I just did what? I used try catch blocks, and the code which was throwing error, I wrapped that code inside try block. So let's run this code, run as Java application, and see what just happened. No more red line, and I can see all statements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 got executed. And because we have an error here, catch block got executed and prints exception happened. But if we just ignore this line, what was the initial requirement? That I should see all statements on my console. That means everything is working fine. So this is the very first example where we saw a exception handling process, and that's it. This is how we write code to uh, process or handle any kind of unwanted conditions or scenarios which might, think about, you have a project and you are doing some kind of payments, and while doing payment something goes wrong, so that amount gets stuck somewhere in middle of the process. So you have to do some kind of handling before debiting that amount from that person's account. You should be very cautious that if something goes wrong, so I should be in that condition that that amount should not get uh, debited unless the whole amount or the process is completed. So just give example. So that way you can think of like how important this whole scenario is. Okay, now let's go back to this. So this is the very first example where we saw how to handle exception with try catch block. Okay, this is working fine. So that's it. I don't need to explain much about try block. So if you have any code which is suspicious, wrap that code inside try block. That's it. Next keyword. Oh, not this one. Next keyword is catch block. Catch block. Okay, so what does it do? It is used to log the exceptions, and this is the block which only executes when there is an exception. Okay, so if you have an exception, only then you will see output from this block. Otherwise, catch block catch block will never execute itself. And how to use it? We already saw those steps. So you can only use catch block with try block. You can only use this is the only scenario. So when you want to use catch block, make sure that try is written above it. Otherwise, it won't execute. I mean, you can even write it. Let me show you. If I just remove try block from here, I'll get an error. Syntax error. Invalid record header name. So yeah, compiler won't recognize it. So it is must that try should be there. That's the only condition needed. Okay, going to create new class. Catch block tester. Okay, in method. So I'll give the same example. So things will remain same. Okay. So we already saw this example where I'll say this one. This is example 1 for catch block. So run the application and yeah, we all saw this output. So this is very clear. What if I change this to something else? Not 0 this time, something else. So definitely there won't be any error exception. So this time you will see some change in the output. Now the catch block will never get executed. It remains same. But at the same time, if I change it, so exception will be there and the catch block will get executed. And there it is. I hope this point is clear. Now, let me get one more example from this. So this remains simple. Let's see the other use of this. Apart from just printing system but out, there's a method inside this exception class. We saw this is a parent class of all exceptions. So with this reference, I can call some more methods. So I can say, if think about I'm getting one exception. Let's say now I will get an error. So it says exception happened, but I'm not sure what's the exception, right? I just want to be very precise that what exception arises. So I can say the exception come on is then plus and I will write e dot get message. Okay. So what I just did, I called one method on the exception class e dot get message. Let's run the code, and now it says the exception is divide by 0. Okay. Let's suppose I want that console message as well, not just this customize. I want a default message. So what I can do, I can also call one method e dot print stack trace and done. So if I run this code, application, and then you guys can see that message which was coming earlier, now it's also there. Plus we are able to see these two statements as well. So we are like maintaining both things. So this is really helpful when you are developing new project where you want to keep everything on your console even if something is going wrong. Definitely we won't write this kind of lines in our production grade code. Okay, we don't push this kind of codes where we print the whole stack trace. Stack trace means kind of a history. Right now it's just a one method call, so just one line. If we have think about this line is getting called from 10th method, like one method is calling second, then second to third, fourth, and 10th. So it will bring the whole stack trace. That 10th method is causing the issue. So you can see all the detail in this thing. So this is the way you can call catch block. So the right now the purpose of catch block is to log errors, and it has some requirements which you have to fulfill, otherwise you won't be able to write that block inside your Java code. Let's remove this part. Okay, and if I get this is the output. Okay, fine. So we just saw try block and catch block. Let's see some examples on funny block now. Finally keyword. Okay, so finally keyword or block, as I already mentioned, this is something which always get execute. So this is the first way of using finally block. And second approach is like completely using all three blocks, try, catch, and value. So we have two ways to use funny block. Okay. Okay, so we have two blocks and finally always execute. So let's verify this again through codes. Let's create new Java, or let's copy this one. Finally block tester. Okay, so first let's try with the try finally. Okay, so try block, and I can check this, and here I can say int c equals to 5 divided by 0. This is this out. As of now, I cannot show you much uses of finally block, but when we progress with some more topics, then we will see the actual uses of finally. But for now, this block always executes. After exception handling, we will do JDBC connection. So there I will show you the uses of finally block. Okay, so here I'll just write a simple message. This block always gets executed. Okay, so let's run the code and see what happens. So it says, let's remove a couple of times to, okay. So see what it says, statement 1, 2, 3, and then I can see finally block is executed, and I'm getting the error as well. But the issue with this approach is remaining lines, statement 4 and 5 is not executed, and that's the reason. I never said that try finally will handle the exception. Try catch will handle the exception. Finally is just something which always executes. So this is not a exception handling example. It's just a usage of how finally block get execute. Okay, so let's put this on paint. Okay, and this is the output. Code is here, and we saw doesn't matter what's the thing is, it always executes. And let's run the code without any error. So divided by something else, but not zero. Yep. So we can see all for statements because we don't have any exception, but finally block always executes. Same way, if I want to use all three blocks, let's try that way as well. So after try, I'll put catch. And now we don't write any statement between these two blocks. If there's a try, as soon as try block get execute, you have to start with catch or finally. In between, you cannot write anything. This is a syntax error, and Java compiler won't allow you to write that. If you try, you will get error. Let's suppose after try block, I want to write int x equals to 0. And you can see we have error. First of all, at the end, it says insert finally to complete the try statement because compiler got confused. It says you would just try. Where is the remaining part? Catch or finally? So it suggests at least go with the finally block. And catch block says something is missing, invalid record header name. So we don't write anything in between try catch. And remove this part. So catch block will say e.print stack trace. And finally, we'll simply say will always execute. So my code is ready with all three blocks. And let's run this code application. So right now we don't have any exception. So this is the first scenario. Put this on paint. The very first statement or scenario is keeping all three blocks but without any exception. Looks fine. Okay, now let's put the error. So divide by 0 is a exception sign, and if I execute, I can see because I have a catch block, so all three blocks, statement 1 to 3, then it prints exception. This highlighted code is coming from catch block, then finally is also executed, then statement 4 and 5. So everything is working fine in this code, though we have error, but still it's working. So this is one scenario where we are getting exception. I hope till all three keywords there's no doubt. If say you can unmute and speak, otherwise I'll proceed with next concept in this topic. Okay, fine. So we just saw two scenarios, one without exception, the very first one, and next one with exception, and it is working great. Fine. So we just saw working of all three blocks and even the hierarchy of exception handling or exception classes. Again, these are not the only classes in this hierarchy. We have lots of Java classes uh, related to exceptions. And if you guys notice, when we talk about any exception class, all classes ends with exception. You can see IO exception, SQL exception, runtime, arithmetic, null pointer, or whatever. So all these are exceptions. I can say by reading the names. And this is a Java convention. In future, we will also create custom exception classes. That means exceptions created by us. So in that case, we will keep that convention handy. And if we are going to write something, let's say um, employee not found, so it ends with exception. Employee not found, exception. Let's say I'm searching um, some person ID. So person ID not found. So person ID not found, exception. So that's how convention works. Okay, now next thing is we are talking about exceptions. So there are two categories for this concept. So topic is types of exception. So we have two types of exception. First is compile time exception. Okay, and next is runtime exception. So we have two categories, runtime exceptions and compile time exceptions. Okay, so how it works, let's see the categories, and again we will see through the examples. So compile time means when you're writing code, right away you will get some exceptions or warnings from the compiler itself. So name is clearly. So it depends upon when compiler is picking your exceptions, or maybe you're writing some bad code, and it will complain it right away. So during code writing, compiler will throw these exceptions. And when this happens, during code execution, when your code is actually executing, JVM will throw these exceptions. Clear? So now we know there are two types of exceptions, and we also get to know that when these exception gets thrown or visible to us. So let's start with compile time exceptions. So going back to this IDE, let's let's create new Java class. I'll call this compile time exception tester. Okay, so keep the name correct. Don't use small letters or small capital letter. Compile time uh, typo. Okay, compile time exception tester. Let's clear this. Okay, so again there are list of compile time exceptions. I'll suggest. Okay, I'll give a homework. If you do, that's great. Otherwise, your call, guys. So um, list 10 exceptions of each category. Fine. So 10 checked exceptions, 10 runtime exceptions. Okay. Okay, that's your first homework. Okay, so we're talking about compile time exceptions. So when you're writing code, right away you will see something that something is wrong, and compiler will give you red lines or warnings. Not warnings actually, errors actually. In terms of ID, I'm calling it errors, but actually they are exceptions. So first I'm trying to, there's a library which can be used to read files. So I'll say reading some files or just file, reading the file. Okay, so how do we do that? There's a class file input stream. I'll write in short FIS equals new file input stream, and it needs the path. So I'll say d colon slash colon my folder slash, or let's use, okay, that path will be long. I'm just saying dummy dot txt. I just wrote this path completely without knowing even that file is not there or not. So I'm pretty 100% sure, not pretty even 100% sure that this file is not there. But how does this Java code knows? It could be there, it couldn't be there. So what does it do? Whenever you use this file class, it throws one error. You can see as soon as I complete this code, I'm getting one error from the Eclipse. What it says, unhandled exceptions. Sorry, exception type name is file not found exception. So it is suggesting that either you can go for throw skill declaration, which we don't know yet, but you can surround this code with try catch, because it says maybe this is the wrong path or maybe it's correct path, but at a time it's not sure. Maybe that file is moved. So whenever you are trying to read some file, you might face file not found exception. So I just use that second solution or suggestion from the Eclipse, and that's how we write. Again, the suspicious code inside try catch, try block, and catch is just simply saying e dot print stack trace, and that's it. So if I, of course, this won't work. I just want to show you because this is compile time errors or issues. So this will be highlighted when you're supposed to get some exceptions at compile time, when your code is going to compile. Now it doesn't matter whether you will, if the file is present, it will execute. If the file is not present, you will get error. So you should wrap that code inside try block. Let's try one more approach or one exception name I'll give you, and that is uh, load the Java class at runtime. Okay, we can also do that. We can load any Java class at runtime, not at compile time, but runtime. So for that, we have to write there's a class. Okay, guys, listen carefully. There is a class whose class name is class. Okay, so there's a class in Java whose name is class. It is a present. Let me write it directly without commenting. Class dot for name. So we just call that static method. So this is the class name whose name is class. Um, there it is. So it is present inside java.lang. Okay, and check out what it says. Public class. There it is. Public final class and this, yeah, okay, I remind. This remind one topic for you guys. With that screen. Tomorrow, ready with your system, I will ask you guys to share your screen and show me all the homeworks or examples you did so far. I want all examples there. So be ready with your systems tomorrow. Then I will start with my topics. There it is. Okay. So one keyword is final keyword. Same way, check out what is final keyword, why we use and rules. Same way with definitely write some examples. So do this for sure. Tomorrow I will definitely check emissions. Okay, so the syntax is public, not syntax, the signature says public final class and this is the class name. Then implement something, lots of interfaces are there. So this class implements multiple interfaces. And one of the method present inside this class is for name. What does this method do? It loads class at runtime. So in tomorrow, maybe after some time, we will do this kind of stuff. This is the driver name of MySQL database, which we're going to use later. But you guys can see as soon as I write this line, I'm getting one error again, the same red line. What it says, unhandled exception for type class not found exception. You're trying to load a class, but there's a case, or it might be possible that class is not present. So either use throws, which I don't know yet, but definitely I can surround this code with try catch. So just take this or click on it, and that line will wrap that into try catch blocks. And yep, that's it. So we just saw two classes or two exception classes which can be used to uh, not as example to show compile time exceptions. So this was about checked exception. So both came when you were writing the code. So during code writing, compiler will throw this exception, and that's what I wrote. Okay, I hope this got fixed. Right here. Okay. So I don't need to run this code, not required at all. The idea was to show you how we can see the compile time issues and how to handle it. So compile time exceptions can be easily handled just by wrapping that code or that line of code inside try block. Understand? So first was this file not found. So first example from this list is or from this type is file not found exception. Next one is class not found. If you just Google it, you will see list of exception or Java classes name. This goes here, this goes there. Okay. What about runtime? Let's see its example. So next is runtime. That means it comes at runtime. Runtime exceptions. Okay, so that comes at runtime. That means when you're writing the code, when you're typing it, you won't get the error right away. Okay, that will come when you are running your code, executing your code. So let's create one Java class again. runtime exception tester. Okay, so the very first example we already did that. The very first example we try block. See, this code was there. If we just write this line, what is that? When you were writing this code, nothing happened, right? Everything was cool. No issue, no red line, no warning, no such thing. So everything was good till you are compiling your code. But as soon as you run the code, you will see these kind of errors. So in that scenario, that make sure that your code is protected by using these try catch blocks. So try catch block is must whenever you start a new class to some to write some code or logic, some business requirement. Make sure that it should be wrapped inside try catch blocks. So let's do that. And yeah, this time nothing gets printed because we don't have any statements, but it is handled. It just says exception handled. Okay, we already saw this. Let's move on and let's try some other example. Let's just this out to break some lines. Okay, okay. So I'm going to create one string. Um, let's say name. Let's say Ram. Okay, so I got this name Ram in the list, and let's suppose I want to get the length of how many characters are there in that name. I can get it easily by saying sysout, and I'll say name dot length. There's a method inside the string class which can be used to print the length of the name. And if I run this code, it prints 3. Okay, 3 doesn't make any sense. So I'll say number of characters in name. Okay, working great. Not an issue. Yes. Okay. After some time, I just did what? I made it null. Or it happened null by any reason. At runtime, somebody used some wrong references and the reference become null. And then let me try this line again. Get me the length of the name. But since name is null, Eclipse is even giving a warning. You can see this time it is yellow. It was not here because Eclipse was sure that name has something. But this time I have explicitly wrote this thing. Name equals to null. So what it says, null pointer access. The variable name can only be null at this location. So Eclipse is sure that when you're trying to run this code, something bad will happen. Something will happen which is not good for us. And if I execute this code, here we go. We are getting one famous exception from any language, null pointer exception. So cannot invoke string dot length because name is null. So what happened when you were typing this code, nothing was wrong. But when you executed this code, you were getting some errors or warnings from the Eclipse. Then when you execute, you got the exception. So this is one of the famous exception, null pointer exception. So doesn't matter how you want to execute, but make sure that if your code is null, the very first thing you should do, name not equals null. If it is not null, only then execute below code. That's the very first step which you always do in your programming. Always check for null thing. If it is not null, only then do this. Now this block is never executed because we just checked whether it is null. It's just one way, otherwise you can always wrap this code inside try block and inside catch block you can print the message. So this is first way, which is not actually exception handling. It's just a best programming practice. Like validating the um, null name for null. Okay, this is part of best practice, not a part of exception handling. So if you want to handle exceptions, so if I put this line inside try block, then I can print some message inside try. So I say try, inside try to print this line, and catch block will simply say if anything goes wrong, I can log it in console. So it is mostly used for developers because we are not supposed to write on one file. We have hundreds of files, so we never get to know where things goes wrong. So we always log everything during development. Now in this code, you can see this is coming from here, and then number of characters we are trying to print again, and it happened null. And you can see the message clearly says runtime exception tester.java line number 25, and there it is, line 25. So that's how you can handle the exception. Okay, so whenever you're trying to use any kind of variable which might throw exception, wrap that inside try block. Done. Let's try with one more example. Let's try with arrays, indexes, something like that. Okay. So this time I'm going to create one simple array. Let's say int array. Let's say numbers equals this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh. Okay, and then I will print these numbers. This out. So if I have to print, what I will do, I will use the reference, then square brackets and their indexes. So array is in zero based thing. So make sure that you have some examples for arrays. So check out arrays in Java with examples. Make sure all these examples in your system tomorrow. I will definitely check this in your machine. Okay, let's try with some other indexes. So at 0, okay, I forgot to run that code first. Let's comment. So let's see what's there at index 0. So arrays works in 0 based index and it says 1. Let me jumble the numbers, otherwise they will confuse you with the positions. Let's say 10, 25, 26, some random numbers, or just 3 is fine. Okay, so if I run this code one more time, I should get 10 because at 0 index I have this. Or if I want to print some message, let's do this actually. Element at index 0. Copy this. This will be helpful in next message. Okay, if I run this code this time, I should get element at index 0. Actually, comment this line. Keep distracting us. Or let's not print distractors because this prints lots of stuffs. When this should go, I'll just say e dot get message. So it will just print the exception name, what exception came up. Run application, and this is the message. Cannot invoke string.len because name is null. That's it. No red line and other colorful statements. And here it is, element at index 0 is 10. Okay, what if I check for index 1 and change here 1, run as application, there it is 1, 25 is working. Let's uncomment this, paste this. Oops. Oh. Okay. Okay. Now let's try id 2 or index 2. So we should get 56 working. Okay. Now trying to access third index. Okay. So this time it's not there. And we will get a new exception. What it says, index 3 out of bounds for length 3. Your array length is 3, and by mentioning index 3 we are actually looking for position 4 or index 4. So this is empty, it's not there. It has just 0, 1 and 2. So when you use some raw index while accessing or working with uh, indexes in arrays, you might end up with array index out of bound exception. Okay, so this is the list of runtime exceptions. So I used um, arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, and array index out of bounds exception. So these are just three exceptions. Definitely when you Google it, you will see lots of exceptions from the Java library. Okay, so this was this, and let me copy this way. Goes here. Okay, this goes here, then this. Okay. Box here. Okay. Okay, I cannot put the exception here. Let me take a screenshot of it. Okay, fine. So we are done with runtime exceptions as well. Next is try runtime exception. Block tester is done. Now let's see how to create custom exceptions. The next topic is custom exception. So this is something when we are writing exceptions which is not part of Java library. Created by developers for business logic or requirements. When you have some requirements, so there you can use it. Think about you have a project going on. Let's suppose we have some employee portal. Suppose we are working on employee portal, and this employee portal needs some IDs. So it says ID or simply ID. I'm just creating a kind of a simplest form, and here it will have get ID, that detail of that user. This is a button. So it's a simple UI of a page. Think about that way, and you have to give ID. And when you click on get button, you will get the details. And that if that ID is not present, then what you will do? Because Java doesn't knows that you are going to use logic and its library to create an employee portal. It could be anything. There's no limit. It's an infinity. So what these means Java developers decided that we will give a luxury to developers who will use our library to create their own exceptions. So if they think that our exception library is not enough for their requirement, and definitely it will be because they are focused on their library. We are focused on our requirements, the client details and other stuffs. So they give a luxury to create our own exceptions. So what you have to do, you have to follow like simple two steps, and you can create your custom exceptions. So steps are first create a Java class and extend um, runtime exception class. Okay, so you have to simply create a simple Java class and extend this runtime exception class as a primary class. So runtime exception will treat as a parent of your newly created Java class, and then create a private variable and create a public method to access it. Okay, and third is create at least two constructors for the same class, default and one argument constructor, one arg constructor. Fine, and this one arg will be string type argument. So you have to follow these three steps, and your constructor, the custom exception will be ready. Okay, so let's see how it works. Okay, so let's do this. Let's get our custom exception. So right click on the package, new Java class, and I'll say employee not found. That's my exception. But since we have to follow the Java conventions, so suffix it with exception and enter. So your class will be employee not found exception. So first class is, the class creation is done. Then we need to extend that runtime exception class. This is also done. Then you need to create one variable, private variable. So it's a private string. This will be like exception message. Okay, we need to keep that message, so exception message. Then third step is create constructors. So I will use Eclipse to generate the constructor, and before that need to create its method as a public string get exception message, and I'll return that exception message like this way. And now third step is create constructor. So I will use Eclipse IDE to generate constructor. So right click, source, first using fields. So exception message and generate, done. This is the argumented one. Next I need to generate default constructor without any argument. So right click, source, superclass. I just open the very first one and generate, and there it is. And our custom exception class is ready, guys. Okay, so this is also ready. Now how we can use it, it's quite simple, because this suggests we have to go with the next keyword. Last two keywords are throw and throws. So we will use some thing here with the keyword. So let's try to use throws first. Okay, so throws keyword. So this is, it is used with method signature. Okay guys, so when it is used with method signature, it will be easy to handle this kind of scenario. So let's suppose if you have this kind of method signature, public void some method m1, so you have to use like throws and then exception name. then this and this, and then your code goes here. Okay, so how to use throws keyword with the method signature. So here we will use that, right? Java class throws tester. Okay, not throw, throws tester. Okay, then let's stop it and let's write some code. Again, same code which I used earlier for runtime exceptions. So let me use what, let me write one statement here used for uh, compile time exceptions. Okay, so when do we use throws keyword? When we have a compile time exceptions. So going back to compile time examples, I'm going to pick this line, and this is a throw tester. Let me write this line. So this line is used to read any file from your directory. And again, red line, if I hover the mouse, it clearly says unhandled exception. Earlier we used try keyword, but this time we will use add throws declaration, as we know how to use it. And if you use this way, you can see that red line is gone from here, and it says throws file not found exception. So you won't see any message here, red line, and so and if I run this code, of course the thing is there, it won't execute. But that's how you can use the throws keyword. And now the issue is here, is it really worth use like this way, or is it really handling the exception? This could be case. So to clear that out, let me write statement same way, statement 1, copy it, going to next line, and statement 3, because 2 is this one. So we have 3 statements, 2 string and 1 is some kind of file reading code. Okay, so let's see whether, of course this file is not there. There is no file in this directory. So when I run this case, after statement 1, what I'm getting? File not found. The system cannot find the file, cannot find the path is specified. And that's obvious because throws keyword, I never mentioned throws keyword is used to handle the exception. No, it's not. It doesn't handle the exception. It simply sees that this method might throw the exception. Throws keyword is just to kind of a signal the other guys. Whenever someone is used that, it might be helpful to those guys who will use this kind of content. On this example, this might be not clear. So just give a minute. But within main method, it doesn't make any sense what exactly gone wrong here. So what I'll do, I will just move this code outside of the main method in different method. Control X. I'll create one more method. Public void other method. Then those lines of code goes here, paste it, and remove this line. Okay, and I will call this method from here. I'm expecting that you guys did the static keyword, so I can write other static. Okay, now again red line, so I'll pick throws declaration. Right, as of now you guys can see there is no error or red line on main method. And if I hover, pick this one, as soon as the error gone from this other method, now it is showing here, because main method is trying to use this method, and this is the signal for the main method. Hey, that you are using this method, but there is a possibility that you might end up with file not found exception. So make sure that you are handling it. So compiler will say, okay, If you are calling one method which says I'm throwing exception, so it's your responsibility. The caller, who is the caller here? The main method is the caller. So it's the caller responsibility to handle this exception. So when I hover, it will again say the same thing, that unhandled exception. So either use throws declaration or surround with try catch. If I use throws, again that won't be counted as a exception handling. It will just bypass it. So better approach is always surround with try catch. And in case if I write some statements, this will be some x, this will be some y this time, and let's copy this line. So you might see the difference. Of course, we already know that if you have used try catch, code will definitely execute end to end. There will be no gap. That's the statement 10. So this time with try catch, if I run this code, definitely there will be error, but I can see statement 1 is printed, then statement 10 is printed because the code is used try catch here. But when after statement x, exception arises here, and statement y would never execute, and because we never handled this exception, we just bypassed it by using throws keyword. So this is one real significance of using uh, throws. Another example, so let me enhance and paste here. Okay, this is better. Okay. Okay, this was throws keyword, and remember we created a custom exception, so we can use the next keyword, which is throws keyword. That's saved. Yes. So throw keyword is the last keyword in this exception topic. Okay. So throw keyword will do what? It is used for throwing the exceptions explicitly. Okay, so if you want to throw the exception explicitly, that manually you want to throw the exception. As of now, we were just facing exception when we write some code, and it happened automatically. We just write some wrong code and it happens. What if you want to control that behavior? You want to throw that exception explicitly. You want that control. Okay, so I was talking about this use for throwing exception explicitly. So we can use this throw keyword right there, and throw, we wrote, where is that? Employee not found exception. Close all. Okay, so we will do what? We'll write a code, new class. This time it's throw tester, not throws. Throw tester. So don't get confused. Throws with method signature. Throw is for explicitly throwing the method. Method is there. Then so let's say we have some int id equals to 1. Then I'm checking if id. Let's use one topic which is not actually part, but let me use it here. I have a database somewhere, okay? Just assume. So as of definitely I cannot create database connection right here, but we will do this later. So I'll try to just replicate it through some collections topic. Integer IDs. And I will check if IDs dot contains the ID I'm going to pass. If it is there, then that's good. I'll simply say sys out user found. Else, I'll say user not found. As of now, just using some string messages. Okay, and in this collection, I'll pass put some arguments. So at don't worry about this, just keep it that I'm trying to. This is some database connection, or database has all these IDs. 2, 3, 4. So these are like 5 IDs in database, and I have ID 1. Let's run the code and see the output. It's a user found. Okay, great. So that's great. What if it's not there? If I make it 10, so it will say user not found. Great. Now I want to throw that exception explicitly. Okay. So in that case, if user not found, after printing this, I will say throw new, then exception name is um, employee not found. So employee not found exception with the message. So I'll say same mess, but I'll wrap it in double quotes. So actually employee, so let's use employee term, not user. Employee found, employee not found. And here I'll put this message here as well. Now we will see some difference here. Run as application, and it says employee not found, and then it prints one message with the same way like were getting for arithmetic, null pointer, array index of found. This time it says com back exception demo, employee not found exception, excuse me, employee not found exception, and then it says throw tester.java at line 23. So this is the line which is throwing that exception. So there was multiple scenarios which we actually came across when we will write the project and some other logics, that certain data is there and we need to throw this exception explicitly. So server knows that exception is thrown and it will handle that situation accordingly. So we will actually use it properly in framework at framework level when we write some code in Spring Boot. But for now, we just kind of we just have a core Java, so I cannot do much with it. So, but that's how we use throw keyword. So you have to write this inside a method wherever you have a logic, and accordingly write that code to handle this kind of scenarios. Line not found is the output. Okay, guys. So that's it for exception handling, and yes, we are done with exception handling. It's a small topic, but yeah, it needs some practice. So spend some time, try to cover all these examples by yourself, and let's see tomorrow like how much homework you guys have done, so we can continue with the JDBC connection. So tomorrow we will do JDBC connection, like database connection with MySQL workbench. So we might take, it depends how you guys are coming up with the homework and the topics. So accordingly I'll decide whether we should spend like 2 days or 3 days, or maybe we can end up in one day as well, the database connection. Any question or doubt, so please tell me, otherwise let's wrap up.